Saints put out their first injury report of week 1. The surprising name on it was Chase Young. He's got a calf injury. He's got a calf. Nick Underhill, just a bit ago, tweeted an update on Chase Young. Apparently not too serious. The update reads specifically from Nick Underhill on Twitter. Chase Young's injury isn't anything too serious, I'm told. Still getting checked and evaluated, but it's not believed to be anything drastic. So Chase Young was a limited participant in Wednesday's practice for New Orleans, getting ready for Arizona. That would be a bummer if Chase Young is unavailable. It is worth noting that just a day ago, Chase Young was a guest on the Jim Rome show. So I wouldn't imagine if he was dealing with some serious kind of injury that he'd be out doing interviews like this. But Chase Young was on the Jim Rome show, and I thought it was interesting when he talked about his decision to re-sign with the Saints, considering this was a guy who, when once upon a time was the number 2 pick in the draft, was the defensive rookie of the year. Injury limited his second and third seasons in the NFL. When he was healthy between the Commanders and the 49ers, he had another very productive season, and then went into free agency, signed a 1-year prove-it deal with New Orleans, and this offseason signed a 3-year, $51 million extension, and really didn't test free agency. He, at least not publicly, he didn't go make visits. He signed an extension to stay in New Orleans and explain why.
Saints just felt like home, man. Just starts in the locker room with the guys. Got so good in the locker room. Locker room up to Mickey. It's everything's just a family environment in there, and that's just something I do cherish a lot.
I do love to hear that. And I'm not surprised by it, because when you have veterans like Cam Jordan and Demario Davis and Tyrann Mathieu, who just recently retired, but there was, of course, with Chase Young's first season in New Orleans was there. When you have these veterans in the locker room, and even as bad as last year was, I mean, they were a 5-win team a season ago. They were a 5-win team. The coach got fired, new coach, new staff, all that coming in. And there's very much a turnover. You're going to have a young quarterback this year who, either way, a quarterback that hasn't won a game. There's not a lot of reason to believe they're going to be a good competitive football team. There just isn't. Just objectively, there isn't a really strong argument for why New Orleans is going to be a good or competitive team. But the fact that he says it feels like home, it very much speaks to the culture in New Orleans and in the locker room. And I love that, because even with a new coach, sometimes that can change. But the fact that you have a guy like Chase Young buying into that, I think that's a great sign for the foundation that you're trying to build. Now, he also, one of those veterans, of course, is Cam Jordan, and Chase Young talked about their relationship.
Yeah, Cam, real cool. Came in, always was there, willing to help in any way. Always trying to give nuggets on certain things. Even just the conversation about just talking pass rush. No matter who you are, if you get over 100, that's hard to do. So you must be doing something right. You know what I'm saying? So I'm always picking his brain about pass rush and things like that.
The opportunity to learn from a Hall of Famer is certainly something that a guy like Chase Young, who's still relatively young in his career, could benefit from. I do look at Carl Granderson on one side, Cam Jordan on the other. Of course, you have Chase Young, with Jordan probably becoming more of your rotational guy who also kicks to the interior as well. But that defensive line under Brandon Staley, I do think is going to be an interesting watch. We know Bo Davis is coaching the defensive line now, but you brought in, and in this defense, switching from a 4-3 to a 3-4, what does that mean for Chase Young? Probably more stand-up edge opportunities. I don't know that I see him as a 3-4 end. I mean, Cam Jordan, quite honestly, is more of the prototypical 3-4 end because of his size. And that might actually work well for Cam Jordan at this stage in his career. But Chase Young, I would think, you look at the edge and you turn him loose. So Brandon Staley's the new defensive coordinator. When he was the DC with the Rams back in the COVID year, they were first in the NFL in total and scoring defense. And despite the fact that the Chargers didn't have great team success while he was there, each year that Staley was there, their defense improved each of his 3 seasons in Los Angeles. So you have a very competent defensive coordinator with a new scheme and the opportunity to learn from a future Hall of Famer in Cam Jordan. And then the other piece of that, what he said, everything from the locker room to the coaches, up to Mickey, one of that is Kellen Moore, who's a guy that really age-wise is more like a peer of a lot of these players. But here was Chase Young on his new head coach.
We love Coach Moore, just what he's doing right now, what he's provided to us. Just being that guy. He's won it. He's bringing all that. He knows how to win. And he's putting us in position and doing things with us to be in that position also. So, can't say enough about Coach Moore.
Those are the things that I love to hear, because if I'm going to reiterate something that you're going to hear me say over and over this football season, where I am not expecting the New Orleans Saints win-loss record to be very impressive at all. I just don't think there's a lot of wins on that schedule. And if that's the case, I'm okay with that because they're hitting reset. But what I want to see is culture and young guys continuing to grow and develop. And if you have a young veteran like Chase Young, talking about the veteran presence in the locker room, how much they like Kellen Moore and the culture he's building, those are all foundational things that you have to have in place that seem to be there in New Orleans. And that's a reason for excitement moving forward. Like you look at the Cardinals and Jonathan Gannon, who's in year 3. They won 4 games in year 1. Last year they were 8-9. Now they're trying to make that step up into the playoffs. Guy's 42 years old. Like the Saints could follow a similar path. They got to figure out quarterback. There's a lot they still have to work on with this roster. But you got to start with culture. It sounds like they have it. That was a great thing to hear from Chase Young. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.